Did you know that the golden age of science fiction started in my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada in 1939? Let me tell you about A.E. van Vogt. Alfred Vogt was born April 26, 1912, in a small town that doesn't exist anymore named Edinburgh. It was in southern Manitoba near the present village of Gretna. This is very close to the border to the United States. Alfred Vogt's parents moved often. His father was a lawyer. Eventually his parents landed in Winnipeg, and off and on through the years, Alfred Vogt lived in Winnipeg. In fact, he married his wife here. In the late 1930s, he started reading some science fiction pulp magazines and thought, I can do that. He submitted one story and had it rejected, but he was encouraged to submit another. John W. Campbell accepted his second story, Black Destroyer, and it was published in the July 1939 issue of Astounding. This story is thought to be the delineation of when the golden age of science fiction started. His next story appeared in the December 1939 issue. It was called Discord in Scarlet. Both of those stories are collected in The Voyage of the Space Beagle, a fix-up novel published in 1950. The Voyage of the Space Beagle by A.E. van Vogt, 1950. As I was saying, The Voyage of the Space Beagle is a fix-up novel of 4 stories. The first story is his first story published, Black Destroyer. The second story he published, Discord in Scarlet, is actually the third story within the novel itself. The other 2 stories are War of Nerves and M33 in Andromeda. I want to first talk about his stories that were published in the 1939s by Astounding. Both are creature features, if you will. One features a very large cat-like creature called a corel that has tentacles coming out of its shoulder. A spaceship has landed on the planet, and Corel is hunting the humans. It gains access to the ship. It's a game of cat and mouse, literally. But are the mice smart enough to defeat the cat? In Discord in Scarlet, the second story, we have an alien called Ixtal. This alien can survive in space. It attacks their spaceship and gains entry. Once again, can humans survive against a malevolent alien? The Ixtal can pass through many atomic substances, including walls. Both of these adventures of survival may sound familiar. If you watched Alien, you've seen some of the plotting from these 2 stories. In fact, A.E. van Vogt sued. It was settled out of court for $50,000. So is The Voyage of the Space Beagle in part the inspiration for Alien? Well, you'll have to read it for yourself. There are a couple plot points I would say are unique to these stories that Alien used, but I'm not sure that those plot points aren't in other stories. Next, let's talk about the spaceship and the crew. It is thought that they are the inspiration for the original Star Trek. So the book is titled The Voyage of the Space Beagle. You might think of the spaceship's name as something that comes from Charles Darwin, who had a 5-year voyage sailing the HMS Beagle. Is it a coincidence that there is a 5-year voyage within this novel? Is there a coincidence that the Enterprise of Star Trek is on a 5-year mission? Both the Enterprise and the Space Beagle have a large crew of scientists and military people. Both explore strange new worlds. The Space Beagle also suffers many casualties in its encounters. If I had to guess, there's probably about 50 to 75 crew members who die within this novel. That's out of a crew of 1,000. So we have an episodic structure of a spaceship visiting new worlds or encountering dangers within space. Once again, I think you should read The Voyage of the Space Beagle for yourself. and decide if it is the inspiration for Star Trek. It certainly is a very influential novel. The ideas were fascinating. Our protagonist is someone who practices the science of nexalism. This reminds me of the made-up science of psychohistory from the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. But nexalism is different. It is more of a generalization of all science groups. Van Vogt talks about different science groups being sort of a silo to themselves, and nexalism is a general knowledge across all science groups. But it has almost a magical quality to it. A bit of psychic powers and hypnotism are involved. Will the science of nexalism save the Space Beagle from these dangers? Will the scientists practicing this new science be accepted by the crew and the captain? I found the Voyage of the Space Beagle very much to be writing of its time, but it was a cutting-edge writing of that time. You can tell that it is the work of a young writer. The enthusiasm often makes up for some scattered prose. We can also see the seeds of hard SF in this novel. So, is it worth a read? Well, I think it is, just to see its influence on later science fiction. There were parts of the story that were very entertaining. Despite it being credited as the start of the Golden Age, I did find some of it to be pulpy. For the modern reader, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Regarding the science fiction historical significance of this book, I would up that rating to 8 out of 10. I think it's an important read for any serious science fiction fan. Watch for future episodes about A.E. Van Vogt and some of his other books. I also want to follow up with a review of Ship of Strangers by Bob Shaw, which is an homage to the Voyage of the Space Beagle. Until next time, keep reading.